I do want to begin right there in Durham with what happened with Notre Dame and Duke, because Sam Hartman put the team on his back, though, right? I mean, I want to start with the ending, because Duke did everything possible. They had him in 4th and 16, and then all of a sudden, Sam Hartman tucks the ball, gets the first down. Audric Estime breaks a couple tackles and gets loose for a touchdown. Congratulations, Tom. You get a miracle cover, right? Touchdown Jesus is so proud of your cover that he was able to come and deliver it to you. What did you think about the final sequence of Notre Dame-Duke?
It's funny how this sport works sometime, because like after Notre Dame lost last week to Ohio State, even with the offense not firing on all cylinders, I still felt better about them going forward, because I thought their defense had played, spectacular against one of the best offenses it's going to face. And you kind of have to do that if you're going to beat big boys. Now tonight, after Notre Dame wins on the road at Duke, I feel much worse about them, because Sam Hartman made the big play in the 4th quarter. Audric Estime had the big run, get the touchdown to win the game and give me my cover. But for the most part, that offense was booty all night. Like, they really struggled. I think it was their first 5 or 6 possessions. They all reached Duke territory. 3 of them reached the red zone. They only had 10 points. And that has kind of been a theme in the last both the games. Like, once the field gets shorter, this team runs out of ideas, or at least it runs out of the ability to execute its ideas. It becomes a whole lot easier to defend, and they've got to figure out a way to solve that. I think defensively, you're still very happy with them, because, I mean, Duke only scored 14 points. Notre Dame really did control the game defensively for most of the night. Riley Leonard, like, you look at his numbers overall, like, yeah, he made some plays in the second half to help Duke take the lead, which is what you need from him. But overall, he did not play well.
Oh, no, listen, that's his game right now. Like, we had the Riley Leonard, Sam Hartman debate, and Riley Leonard statistically is a good running quarterback. He is not an elite passing quarterback based on only this season's sample size. So the fact that what are the highlights that we had from Riley Leonard? On the ground, right?
Yeah.
That was the best things that he did. And some of that might be Duke's wide receivers. Some of that might be Notre Dame's defense. But I understand if you're coming out of this feeling a little bit sheepish on Notre Dame's, the fact that they're going to go the rest of their schedule without losing again. You don't come out of Saturday night in Durham believing that they're going to be able to run the table the rest of the way.
I mean, we'll get to it later, but like, based on what I saw from Notre Dame and Clemson today, I'm pretty sure Clemson's going to beat Notre Dame. Like, I feel fairly confident about that result. Yeah, it was a really excellent start. But the last 2 weeks, they looked great against Ohio State. Even in the loss tonight, in the win, they did not look all that impressive. And I think that if you're a Notre Dame fan, like, first of all, you're relieved you got the win, but there are some alarm bells going off in your head, or at least there should be.
I can already see in the chat, like, they're expecting me to come out here and bash Notre Dame. And I'm not going to do that, right? Like, I already said last week that I think you saw some of the flaws in their process of hiring the offensive coordinator, right? I think they should have paid up to get a guy who's a little more proven. But I don't know how much that had to do with tonight. I thought the main thing tonight was Notre Dame didn't have Thomas. They didn't have Colsey.
Great House.
They didn't have Great House.
Yep.
I mean, we can think those guys are not as good as Notre Dame fans think they are. And I do. I don't think they're quite as good as the Notre Dame fans in the chat think those dudes are, or at least not yet. Long term, still pretty bullish. But it is really important to note they didn't have those guys tonight. I think we've seen, like, this Notre Dame offensive line is good. The left tackle, Joe Alt, is really good. The guards are not special. The right tackle is not special. Duke has like a veteran defensive line. Maybe one guy there will play pro ball. And they pushed Notre Dame around a little bit tonight. So, yeah, like, going forward, I think you have to be a little bit concerned. But at the same time, Notre Dame didn't have weapons. Duke clearly knew that. Duke has 2, nice veteran corners on the outside who pretty much handled everything. Flores got open a couple times. And look, like, they didn't do the Marshall thing from last year, right? They didn't have 10 men on the field. They stayed in the fight. They handled the situations, I thought, pretty well. Like, Duke made some plays. I mean, I said it pre-show. I thought Leonard was the best quarterback on the field. I think that after tonight. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, he's not going to be there now. But like they didn't panic. They handled the situation. Hartman made a great scramble, and they're still undefeated. Like, that's a hard game to get over last week, and to go in there shorthanded without your receivers. I was actually like, I'm impressed, but not like super disappointed, to be honest.
I'll say one thing that really did stand out to me from this game too that I didn't mention. Like last week, Ohio State, I think, had one tackle for loss against Notre Dame. And the offensive line still played well tonight for the most part. Duke had 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss. But that doesn't really tell the whole story, because I felt like watching tonight and watching last week, Duke did a much better job getting pressure on Hartman quick than Ohio State did, which I think if you're Duke and Mike Elko, considering his background and his defenses over the years, that is an encouraging sign. So, yeah, it sucks to lose this game, but it's not a conference loss. You're still very much alive in the running. And I think if that defense plays like it did tonight, that's a team that's going to be a real giant pain in the ass for everybody to conference and to beat.
Yeah, I go credit Elko on that one. I mean, we're just talking about somebody who has done I hear from people who have to go against Duke, and they say that what they do on third down tears you up.
Mm-hmm.
Like their third down scheming, play calling, everything that they've got going on, and the fact that they do have such a veteran defense helps them be able to take that coaching and put in things that are going to be a little bit more elevated. Like you mentioned, Tom, and this was something that I mentioned in tomorrow's Top 25 today. This is a heartbreaking loss, and Riley Leonard, his status is going to define everything moving forward. But everything else still on par to be able to compete for an ACC championship, right? Duke is going to play North Carolina. Duke has already a win against Clemson. Like if we get down into this, 7-1, 6-2 tiebreaker type scenario, Duke could very much be in the mix. So I am not selling Duke stock as we sit here right now, only with the asterisk being Riley Leonard's status, because as we discussed on CBS Sports HQ on Friday, his legs are the difference maker for this offense. They do not have difference makers beyond Riley Leonard. And so if he can't play, then you're losing a big part of this.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best player on their team by a ton. I thought he was the second best quarterback in the ACC so far this year. Really second only to Drake May. I really hope that wasn't as bad as it looked. Chip said he's not selling. It's kind of one of those things where you're not selling because the market's don't open until tomorrow morning. But we all kind of know this. Like it would be shocking to me if this is not a big time set. Like if that's not a pretty serious ankle injury. Just the way he's like writhing around on the ground in pain and like that sucks, man. I don't know how to transition to this. With the win, not with the injury. Just want to be really clear on that. There was definitely like some ball don't lie for me in Notre Dame's favor after that BS targeting call. Like, what are we doing? We're scrambling trying to make a tackle. It's football. Come on.
But we got to protect hips. Like, I mean, if you ever seen what happens to somebody with a broken hip? Just it really, like my grandma broke her hip and it was devastating. We got to protect these guys' hips. No, that was the dumbest targeting call I've ever seen. And we've seen a lot of really dumb targeting calls. It's a moving target, a runner, and he goes to make the tackle, and the crown of his helmet hits him in the hip, and they eject him for targeting. Just beautiful stuff.
Fantastic job by the officials all the way around. Just really, really good stuff. I mean, you are correct to point this out. There are many people who will agree with you. I don't think that specifically impacted the outcome of the game, though, correct? A fair complaint, but not something that turned the game?
No, I mean, it did extend Duke's touchdown drive.
Yeah.
It did have kind of a pretty big impact on the game. But, yeah, I mean, it didn't, in the end, the result, it wasn't impacted by that. But it was a pretty big call. Punt reviews, punts out of bounds, or was it in the end zone? Just not a great night for officials.
Oh, you didn't like the over the pylon call? You thought that should have been out at the half-yard line?
God,
These guys are all trying their best, Chip. They're all trying their best.
that actually, I thought that was the pylon call. I thought was probably the right call. By the way, TCU has just totally messed around for about the last 40 minutes of this ball game, and West Virginia, despite having multiple guys hauled off on stretchers or air casts, is going to beat them in Fort Worth 24-21.
Another
they're
money
gonna go
sprinkle.
bowling.
Another money sprinkle for day trader Danny.
Look at that. Danny's just killing it this year.
I just make one comment on the chat tonight, bud. Since you didn't rip Notre Dame, now I'm the one who hates them.
Oh, yeah, they don't know what to do.
Listen, I Notre Dame fans, I understand you were missing your receivers. If you watch that game tonight and you feel super good about your team, then you want to, like, be honest.
Okay, I don't have I mean, I had initially said later in the show, but do you think they lose at Louisville?
No.
Because Louisville doesn't look good either.
Yeah, I don't think Louisville's that good.
Yeah. Nothing better than Friday night with two teams stink. Let's see who stinks the most. Again, that's not a headliner. We don't do that here in the 13th minute of the podcast.